Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. A little bit of a different video here on this channel because normally we just vlog on this channel and obviously I'm not typically sitting down here presenting to you guys. But if you have seen the title of this video, you would know that this is one of my videos that I intend on putting out in our trying to conceive process. I don't know what way I'm going to put out these videos, but I've really learned over the years that vlogging and talking to the camera and sharing my experience is something really therapeutic. And during this trying to conceive process, I am finding a lot more purpose through these kind of hard moments by sharing with you guys. So in today's video, I wanted to talk to you guys about the vitamins and supplements that I've been taking because they have really helped me. Now, a little bit of backstory is my mom, you guys, is like the biggest health freak on the face of the planet. And as I've gotten older, my periods have gotten worse and worse and worse. Being fully transparent with you guys, I will soak through a pad within like an hour. I can't wear tampons because I soak through them so incredibly fast. I will fill up a menstrual cup within an hour. Like, that is how heavy my period is. Now, for the last, I want to say like 5 or 6 years, my mom has been saying to me, Nicole, I think you have fibroids. That's something that she kind of deals with in her personal day-to-day life without going too much into her business. And so she's been saying to me, Nicole, 1, you need to like not be so stressed out. 2, you need to clean up your diet. And 3, I think you have fibroids. Now, that's actually some of the vitamins that I'm going to show you because, believe it or not, and please no one come at me in the comments, these things, yes, are probably expired, but my mom gave me some of these pills, I want to say a good 5 or 6 years ago, some of these vitamins, and I never took them. And I remember her saying like, Nicole, I spent so much money on these things and you haven't taken them. Now, I have moved to the UK. My mom gave me these vitamins when I was living in Canada, and I've moved to the UK and I've been in the UK for a few years now, and I'm only touching these vitamins now. But I don't know if you guys believe in things like this, but for me, I was like, oh my gosh, like maybe I held on to these for this exact moment in time. Now, as I previously mentioned, I really struggle with my period. The flow is so heavy. The pain is like unimaginable. So we don't get Advil here in the UK, but whenever I go traveling, either to North America or I got some in Dubai, I will pick up Advil. When I get my period, I will typically take 3 extra strength liquid Advil, like liquid cap Advils in the morning, and then I take it halfway throughout the day, and then I take it usually either before bed or I get up throughout the night. That is 9 extra strength liquid cap Advils that I typically take in a day when I get my period. I'm in that much pain. As I said, my flow is heavy, and with that, I literally, I'm not exaggerating this, and it's not really my style to put pictures of my business like this up on the internet, but my blood clots will be the size of my hand. They're that bad. So as I sit here right now, after telling you guys all of that, as I sit here right now, me and my husband have been trying for 5 months now to get pregnant, and I'm not pregnant. I do think that one of the months I did get pregnant, my period was about 5 days late. Maybe you guys have seen that already, depending on how I release these videos. If not, if it's out already, I'll have it linked right here or in the description box. And beyond that, I haven't got pregnant. And so as I've started doing my research, a lot of the things that I kept on coming across was either endometriosis, which I don't believe I have. My period is so regular. It's literally to the day, like so regular, or fibroids. And that's the moment where I could start hearing my mom in my head and all of the things that she said to me. And so it's one of these things now where I'm now like YouTubing and Googling the symptoms of people with fibroids, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is me. Now, I'm going to be inserting some clips of some of the YouTube videos that I've come across that I have found extremely useful, and I'm going to insert one of the clips right here.
The easiest thing to check first is periods, because your periods are going to tell you so much about your estrogen levels. First of all, if you have relatively high estrogen, you will likely have heavy periods. You may have long periods. So I'm talking 5 days and more. 5 days could still be okay, but if it's like 5 days 1 month, 6, 7, 8 the other months, then yeah, you are on the estrogen dominant side. Another thing is that you might see clotting, and little clots are not necessarily an indication of estrogen dominance, but definitely if you have big ones. I've had patients tell me that they had clots as big as a fist. So if you have that, don't feel like you are the odd one out. You really aren't the only one. It's pretty scary to have that, but this can indeed be an indication of estrogen dominance, and as I said, you can turn it around. Another thing that you will see with periods is not only are they long, but you feel like you've barely stopped your period and then it starts again. So some women may say, I bleed for 2 weeks and I'm off for 2 weeks. I bleed for 2 weeks and I'm off for 2 weeks. This is typical for estrogen dominance. And what you will see is that estrogen goes up in relation to other hormones anyway as we age. So as we get older, we often see that cycles become shorter and shorter. But if that is happening for you, then you know that estrogen is having a party. And then there's another very clear symptom that I see with estrogen dominance, and that is that your periods might be really painful. Again, this could also be due to other things, but if it's in combination with your heavy, clotty periods that come very frequently, then chances are that your pain is indeed related to estrogen dominance. Now let's talk about some diagnoses that you might get through your doctor that indicate that you probably were estrogen dominant for a long time before your symptoms got so severe you went to see the doctor and you got this diagnosis. So I already mentioned endometriosis to you and I explained that, so we got that covered. Another thing that we often see is fibroids. If you've been diagnosed with fibroids, then that is often an indication of high levels of estrogen as well. Now on this channel, we care about how high levels of estrogen then affect your fertility, right? Well, I explained to you earlier when I talked about the charting that when you have high levels of estrogen, you will often see that you have a short follicular phase, meaning that you ovulate a lot earlier than what is common or what is best for your fertility. The reason that you ovulate earlier with high levels of estrogen is because in the first half of your cycle, you're supposed to produce estrogen and start to thicken the lining again and start your body to mature the eggs in your ovaries and prepare them for ovulation. As estrogen goes up, it starts to hit a threshold, go through the threshold. And that communicates to the body, we're ready for ovulation, so let's make sure that we spike LH, luteinizing hormone, and that's the hormone we pick up on with ovulation tests. So that tells us, okay, LH is spiking, so we're right before ovulation. Now we make use of our fertile window. So back to the high levels of estrogen. If your estrogen levels peak quite early because you have high levels of estrogen, then that means LH will peak early and tell your body to release the egg too early, meaning that there wasn't quite enough time for the eggs to mature properly. And you can imagine if an egg didn't get a chance to mature properly, it will be really difficult for it to fuse with sperm and to develop into a baby. So when I treat women that have high levels of estrogen, that is so important for us to address, just because we can't have that egg drop too fast and then become an issue later on because it cannot be fertilized. Listen, if you ovulate on day 12, it's still possible for you to get pregnant. So don't get hung up too much on that. You can be aware of the fact that you're probably estrogen dominant and you need to do something about it, but don't freak out and think, I ovulate day 12, so I'll never get pregnant. However, if you ovulate on day 10 or earlier, research has shown that it becomes really difficult then, so it's so important for you to address it then for sure.
That is all about tackling estrogen dominance, because as I've been mentioning several times in videos, it is not about your levels of progesterone or estrogen per se, but it's more about the relationship between the two. So if you have a lot of estrogen but normal levels of progesterone, then you don't necessarily have a progesterone problem, but an estrogen problem, and you should be looking at that. However, you still have symptoms of low progesterone in that case. However, I do see a lot of patients that have both low estrogen and low progesterone, so this video is very worthwhile for you. And in many cases, there is estrogen dominance, but there's also low progesterone, so not just in relationship to estrogen. So a big thing that you need to be looking at when you're looking at progesterone levels is not just your progesterone, which is what I keep finding articles and videos on online and recommendations. The whole estrogen thing is ignored, but you totally cannot do that, because if you have low progesterone, that will lead to high estrogen as well. And as I said, estrogen dominance in itself can give you the impression that you have low progesterone. And that takes me to the next point that you should really be looking at. And again, this is something I have mentioned before, and that is address your stress. If you are stressing out over life, and we all do, there are big problems, there are small problems, stress is going to be around. But if you don't learn to manage it, if you don't learn to rest, that is going to continue to affect your hormonal system, because our bodies produce stress hormones at the expense of progesterone. So if you have a very short luteal phase, which is from ovulation until your next period, or you see that you have very low temperatures in the second half of your cycle, that is really a sign of your low progesterone. And if you know that you've been living a stressful life and not getting enough sleep, that is something you really need to look into. So let's talk about a few nutrients that your body really needs in order to produce enough progesterone. Generally speaking, for your hormones, what you need is enough vitamin D. Did you know that vitamin D is not a vitamin, but it is a hormone? It's something that we produce. So you can imagine if there is not enough vitamin D, which is a hormone, it's going to be a bit of a problem to produce other hormones, such as sex hormones like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, all the stuff we need for good eggs. I find that the 400 international units in most multivitamins are not actually sufficient. I would start at least 1,000, and it really depends on your skin color, how much you're outside, which part of the world you live. So I think the best would be is if you do your own research in this area, have a look at Dr. Michael Holick and the vitamin D solution. He's written a book, he's got a website. You will be able to understand much better why this is something that needs to be tailored to you. But I have all of my patients on at least 1,000 a day because all of them are deficient in vitamin D. An important vitamin is the vitamin Bs, and especially because our adrenals really need them, and one of them is vitamin B6. Research has shown that supplementing with 200 to 800 milligrams a day hugely impacted progesterone levels of the women in the study.
Honestly, after hearing that and kind of understanding how all of these things play into one another, I was like, wow, the fibroids is one thing, but now I'm seeing how fibroids can end up contributing to other problems as well. I think I have one more clip that I saved that I wanted to share with you guys, because I'm not a medical professional and I'm not going to try to sit here and explain to you what all of these things mean, but I'm gonna, let someone else do it. So I'm gonna insert that next clip.
So if I see estrogen dominance in someone's case, that often makes me think about the thyroid possibly being sluggish video, but it's just really important for you to be aware of the fact that when you struggle with estrogen dominance, this could also be down to a sluggish thyroid. And a few hints of you possibly having a sluggish thyroid is that you struggle with your weight, that you are overweight, or that it's really hard for you to get the weight off, that you feel really tired, very cold frequently when other people clearly aren't, and that you have a clouded mind. Now, these symptoms could point towards something else, but they can also be clues of an underactive thyroid. If you want to start at looking how to improve your thyroid today, then I would recommend that you head on over to one of my videos on how to nurture your adrenals, because a sluggish thyroid is often a reaction to adrenals that have been struggling for a long time. So if you've had a really stressful life, and I guess most of us do, then as a result, your thyroid can kind of slam the brakes. So start taking care of your adrenals and head on over to that video. But first finish watching this one, right? Obviously. So as I said, a sluggish thyroid leads to a slower metabolism. And this is the reason that often underactive thyroid patients feel cold and they struggle with the weight, because they are not actually getting rid of the fat. If your thyroid is sluggish, that also slows down the metabolism of your liver. And we need a healthy liver to get rid of toxins, first of all, but also for a healthy hormone balance. So what happens if the liver isn't functioning properly because of the thyroid being underactive, or because the liver itself is being stressed? That means that estrogen builds up in the body. So estrogen that you should normally be getting rid of with a healthy metabolism, it just builds up, and that gives you all the estrogen dominance symptoms. So although a sluggish liver can be the result of a sluggish thyroid, you can imagine that your liver in itself could be struggling for several reasons. One is actually an emotional reason. If you are harboring anger and you aren't resolving that, that puts stress on your liver. You see how an emotional thing that you're holding on to can have a physical impact. So a way to lower the impact on your liver is to resolve your anger. There are a couple of other things that can help your liver though. If you've been drinking a lot of alcohol in the past or you've been smoking, that has put pressure on your liver. So if you haven't cut that out already, do that right away. Smoking you want to cut out anyway if you are trying to conceive, but alcohol we want to at least cut down if we don't cut it out completely. Another thing that puts stress on your liver is any kind of toxins. So that can be drugs. If you're taking drugs over the counter a lot, reconsider if it's really necessary. If you're taking prescription drugs, make sure that you talk to your health practitioner who's prescribed them before you cut that down or cut it out. Maybe you're starting to understand what actually took me so long to shoot this video, because a lot of the causes of estrogen dominance are linked in. And here's another linked in one, and that is if you're holding on to fat. So it's really important to start exercising if you're not already, and also to look at your diet if you haven't done that yet. Because if you're holding on to fat, that also increases estrogen in your body because fat produces estrogen. However, if you are struggling with an underactive thyroid, you are struggling with your weight. So I can understand that if you have an underactive thyroid, that it makes you really disheartened to think, well, if I'm going to hold on to the fat and that's going to make me estrogen dominant, then where do I start? Just start somewhere. If you are working on your thyroid, that's going to help your fat metabolism, but you really need to also work on making sure that you're moving around enough and you're not slouching on the couch with a bag of potato chips in your hands. Know that if you're exercising and watching your diet, it's also going to help your thyroid. And it doesn't take that much. You don't have to sign up to a gym. You don't have to have the perfect outfit. You don't need to get the perfect DVD. Just start with 15 minutes of movement a day. So we're not just looking at resolving your estrogen dominance so you can actually conceive naturally, but also so that you can hit menopause in a healthy way.
And there you have it, you guys. So I looked at all the symptoms that I was having, and then I looked at all these videos and what they were saying, and then I remembered I have all these pills that my mom gave me when she was saying to me, Nicole, I'm pretty sure you have fibroids and you're not dealing with them. So I do know that there are ways you can go find out if you have fibroids. At the moment of me filming this, we are currently in the middle of a pandemic, and doctor wait times here in the UK is a lot longer than I'm used to in Canada. So I figured, why don't I start taking these vitamins in the meanwhile while I wait for this doctor's appointment, and then maybe from there they can then send me for an MRI and I can see, do I have fibroids, etc., and like how we could go about treating them. So that's kind of my thought process behind all of that. I may as well start taking these vitamins in the meanwhile, and then if I still continue to struggle to get pregnant, at least I know that I have made use of the time and the things that I have at my disposal right now. So with that being said, I haven't fallen pregnant. I'm currently in my ovulation window right now. I will be floored if I get pregnant this time, but it's been about 3.5 weeks that I've been taking these vitamins, and you guys, I just finished my period and I cannot believe how much better my period is with taking these. So the first thing that I'm going to show you guys is just this Estrosense. So it's from Lorna Vanderhaeg. Hopefully I said that right. So it's for balanced hormones, regular periods, and PMS. And it's 120 vegetarian capsules, and you're supposed to take 2 capsules a day. And now the only thing that I will say about this is that, like, I was looking up Estrosense on YouTube and I found like nothing. I came across one video. That was crazy to me. Now I didn't head over to their website. I personally like kind of going to YouTube or going to Google first for things, because people that have written their stuff on their website, like, they're dictating the narrative. I like to hear other people's opinions as well. But this is one of the things that I have been taking. Now the next thing that I've been taking is that same, I believe it's like the same brand, but it is Thyrosense, and it's by the same woman, and it says supports optimal thyroid health, improves energy and metabolism. Now I had no idea why, like, I've never considered myself to have a thyroid problem, but in that video that I inserted the clip for, the lady tells us, I can't remember her name, sorry, I'll have her channel listed in the description box though, but she explains why the thyroid does play into potential infertility problems, etc. And I was like, oh my gosh. Now a little bit of transparency on that as well, you guys. I, like, one of the months where I thought maybe I'm pregnant, I am so tired, like so extremely tired. I don't have much motivation. I get up, I get ready, and I sit at the computer for like 2-3 hours, and then I could like literally go to sleep. And I've actually put on now over 30 pounds since moving here to the UK. So I definitely see like what she's saying about like the thyroid and like how it can affect your energy and your motivation and stuff, and weight gain, and it is a lot harder for me to take off the weight. So I've been taking this, and I do think that it has contributed to where I'm at today. The other thing that I'm going to show you is this Mega Food Fresh from Farm to Tablet Blood Builder. That's a mouthful. And it's to help form red blood cells. Now, I thought that this was for iron. Maybe it is for iron, and you're supposed to take it with food. Yes, it is iron. Now, these pills absolutely reek. I'm not gonna like beat around the bush with that. They absolutely stink. But you take one of them, and my mom, like, there wasn't a ton in there, but again, I think in those 2 clips that I showed you, I can't remember which one, one of the ladies was explaining about how people that have issues with estrogen and people that have issues with fibroids and like thyroid and stuff, that one of the symptoms is like anemia, and like I'm literally like very anemic, like dangerously anemic, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't know that all of these things can like play into another. So one of the things is I take my vitamin B12 and B6 by injection. I have low iron all the time, but now I'm sitting here and I'm like, by me taking like iron pills or by me taking vitamin B by injection, I don't think I've ever been dealing with the problem. I've just kind of been putting a band-aid on the problem. So these are the three things that my mom gave me years ago that I'm starting to take now, that I do feel contributed to me having, like, I don't want to say this because like you can't have the best period, but it was like the best period of my life. Now, the last thing that I'm going to show you that I've been taking is, I don't have the box anymore, but it's just these Pregnacare Max vitamins. So I think these ones are the folic acid. I've heard that it's good to take folic acid and omega-3s when you're starting to try to get pregnant, and truthfully, I wasn't taking those regular, and to be honest, when I was taking them, I didn't see like any difference. I don't know if you're supposed to see any difference, and I feel like those are like kind of generic. Maybe that's like a weird way of looking at it, but I've also been reading that folic acid is good, but I hear that folate, like actual folate, like getting foods that are rich in folate, is best. Now, I share all of that with you guys because maybe you're someone with fibroids. I have not been diagnosed with fibroids, but with me taking these pills for 3.5 weeks and then seeing how drastically better my period was and how drastically better I feel, I don't even think that like I even need to further have a conversation. And it's proved to me that I need to take care of my body. I need to take care of my body. Now, let me talk to you guys about the period that I just had. I had no blood clots, none. 0, zilch, no blood clots. I had no pain. I did not need to take even one Advil. Like, don't get me wrong, yes, I had a little bit of cramping, but it was like nothing I couldn't grin and bear through. Well, there was no grinning, there was no bearing. Like, I felt my cramps, but I wasn't crippled by my cramps. The other thing is that my period is normally heavy for like 5 days, and I'm soaking through everything. And it took 3 days for my period to even start. And this is like what my period was like when I first like started getting my period. And then it's just progressively gotten worse. And then I would say it was like day 4. That's when my period really started and it got heavy. And I was like not soaking through everything or anything like that. And then it lasted 3 days. 3 days. Can you believe that? Someone who like, you guys, especially if you like follow me over on Instagram, about a year ago, you would have seen that if you've been following me for some time, you may have seen that like I went to the sustainability workshop. One of my friends had put it on. I ended up having to tie my like cardigan around me, and I had period coming out of like the bottom of like my ankles. My jeans were soaked through, the towel or the cardigan I wrapped around me was soaked through, and period was coming through like the bottom of my jeans. Like, that's how bad my period is. So to have a period that I just had is like a dream. I say to like my husband all the time, I cannot wait for me to go through menopause because I'm so sick of dealing with my period. And to now see that I don't have to deal with that is like something crazy. So where am I at now? I think I'm still going to try and have a doctor's appointment. I'm going to schedule a doctor's appointment because it's going to take me some time to get a doctor's appointment, and then see if I can like adjust my diet, continue to take these pills, and see if I can like, I don't know, work towards dealing with what I think the problem is until I have my doctor's appointment. If I get to that point where I have a doctor's appointment and I still haven't conceived, I will totally update you guys with where I'm at, what the doctor's findings were, etc. But I wanted to share this with you as I go through it. I'll also be sharing a few other things that I have started looking at. As you go through this process, you find there is a lot of things that you can, I don't know, try and assist the situation with. I definitely have picked up some yoni pearls and yoni steams, and I'll be sharing that with you guys. And I've definitely been trying out some like home remedies that I have found on YouTube as well. Anyways, you guys, I hope you find this video useful. I hope you find this video to be a place of comfort and to allow you to know that like you're not alone in this process, because I think for me that's the hardest part. If you've made it to the end of this video, you're probably in a place like I'm in right now and you just feel a little bit lonely, because the trying to conceive process is a time that you're not really talking about with everybody. And then if you think that there's something wrong, then you're just kind of left suffering in your own silence. So if you have made it to the end of this video, just know I'm thinking of you right now in this moment, and I'm sending you like the most well wishes your way. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. I would love if you hit the subscribe button and followed along on this journey. And yeah, I'll see you in my next one. Bye.